Hi guys, welcome back to the Operations on the Real Numbers course. I'm Mrs. Cofield and today is lesson number 7, the applications of addition. I hope you guys are prepared. You have your notebooks and your pencils handy because we're going to go all in today. Let's go. We always like to start with a quick review and everything ties back from this week's lesson about the main principle of addition. So let's make sure that today you have it. Here we go. The only things you can add are the same things, and when you add the same things, you get the same things. Woo! Great job, everyone. I know you're locking that in, and you make sure you hold on to that because it ties into what we're going to talk about today. Recall, yesterday we talked about different ways to add, including adding fractions, mixed numbers, and decimal. Watch how those concepts come back today as we tap into the applications of addition. Now, the first thing you need to know is that there are 2 main applications of addition. Only 2. Now, here they are. Write these down in your notes. The first one is find the total. The second one, it's find the result of an increase. Now, I'll explain these as we go along because they're going to come up in our examples. So again, number 1, find the total, and number 2, find the result of an increase. Let's try it. So, in our first example, a person ran 3.5 miles in the morning and 2 1/3 miles at night. The question asks, what is the total number of miles she ran? So, if you look for keywords within the question, you see that word total pops out. And remember I said there's 2 types, and that's total and the result of an increase. So in this question, we know it's an addition question because they're asking us to find a total, and in this case, the sum of the amount of miles that this person ran. So let's set up our addition problem. As you can see, we have 3.5 plus 2 1/3. Now, let's talk about yesterday's lesson. Here you see we're adding mixed numbers, right? Now, I hope that someone out there remembers what's the first step you do when you're adding mixed numbers. You don't just dive in and just go crazy. Remember that, right? So here's what we have to do. You have to first convert them to fractions. Good job. I know someone was on it. I can tell those teams out there are outstanding, and you guys are catching on quickly. So yes, the first thing we have to do in order to add mixed numbers is to convert them to fractions. So let's just start with a whole new blank page. So here we go. Let's jump on in there, okay? So we have 3.5 plus 2 1/3, all right? That's what we said. Now let's take those 2 mixed numbers and convert them to fractions. Here we go. 3.5 is converted to 7/2, and then we're going to take our 2 1/3 and it's converted to 7/3. Beautiful. So now that we have our 2 fractions, we're going to ask ourselves my favorite question. Are these the same things? Because we're thinking the only things you can add are the same things. And when you add the same things, you get the same things. So what are our things? We have halves and thirds. They're not the same things, right? So now, who can tell me what the next step was if they're not the same things? Yes, you are right. We have to convert them. We have to convert them and find a common denominator. So in order to find a common denominator, we're going to do 2 times 3 because we're multiplying the denominators by one another, and that equals 6, okay? So that's the denominator we're going to work with. Here we go. Let's convert the rest of our fractions now into sixths. Here we go. 7/2 times 3/3. That's 21/6. And then we have 7/3 times 2/2, and that's 14/6. So now that we have our 2 fractions, which are the same things, guess what we can do? We can add. So let's do that. So if you add them up, 3.5 plus 2 1/3 is the same as 21/6 plus 14/6. And that gives us 35/6. And if you take that and convert it back to a mixed number, that answer is now 5 5/6. Now, yes, we've done a lot of work, but remember I said I want you to make sure that you answer the question. So let's go back. What was the question? A person ran 3.5 miles, But the question is asking us, what is the total number of miles she ran? So yes, we did all of our work and we found out that that total was 35/6 or 5 and 5/6. Let's answer it in a sentence. And we're going to tell them she ran a total of 5 and 5/6 miles. Beautiful. All right. Give yourselves a hand because you guys are rocking and rolling. Let's keep going. Here's our next example. The temperature of an object increased 15 degrees from an original temperature of -12 degrees. What was the temperature then? So, if you look for those key words, like I said, there were two types of applications, right? A result of an increase was one of those options. So you notice the word increase in our story problem? Perfect. That tells us that we have to add. So let's set up our addition problem. And because they said that we started with an original temperature of -12, we're going to put -12 first and then add the 15 degrees that it increased. Now, sometimes you could just look at it like we said before when we're adding integers, and you could just be like, boom, I already know what the answer is. But let's just assume that someone out there doesn't just like pop up and know, like it's not that obvious to them, right? Remember I said there's two questions you can ask in order to figure this out. And those questions are, which do you have more of? Now, when I say which do you have more of, I mean, are there more positives or are there more negatives? Because remember, they don't like each other and there's a battle that's been going on between them forever and they take one another out. But in this case, you don't have to do a lot of P's and N's. You can just look and see, do I have more positives or negatives? And in this case, 15 is greater than 12. 15 is our positive number. We have more positives. Therefore, our answer is going to be positive. Now, the next question is, how many more do we have? And you can simply figure that out by doing 15 take away 12. That's 3. So we have 3 more. And we know that the answer is going to be a positive 3 more. So technically, that's 3 degrees. Okay? But remember, we have to answer the question. So what was the temperature then? The new temperature is 3 degrees. Woo! Let's use our signals out there. If you guys figure that out, this is our signal that we're going to celebrate you, okay? Keep up the great work. I support you. Next question. A triangular table has 3 sides with lengths of 23 inches, 52 inches, and 32 inches respectively. What is the perimeter of the table? Okay, so some of y'all might be like, what is the perimeter, period? Because I don't know what you're talking about. Well, like I told you guys before, sometimes there's ways that they can say the same things without using those words total or increase. But in geometry, the perimeter is basically all the lengths of the sides added up together. So in other words, it's another way of saying total, okay? So let's rephrase the question. What is the total? So we're talking about the total of the inches around the table, okay? So let's go ahead and add up all those inches. So we know P is perimeter, so P equals 23 plus 52 plus 32. But we can write it the long way so that you can add it up nicely in your handy dandy notebook. And once you do that, you should get 107. So it's 107 inches. But again, we'll make sure that we go back and answer their question. What's the perimeter of the table? The perimeter of the table is 107 inches. Bravissimo! Yes! Keep up the excellent work, guys. I'm feeling your vibes out there, okay? So, let's move on to another question. The price of a gallon of gas was $2.31, and it went up by 41 cents per gallon. What's the price per gallon now? Okay, so this is another one of those types of questions where they're saying the same things, but in a different way. So the key words I heard here was, it went up. That means it's a result of an increase, okay? So let's see how much it increased by setting up an addition problem. Now remember what we said about adding decimals. In order to add decimals, just line up the decimal places and add as usual. Reason being, you have to add tenths and tenths, hundredths and hundredths, so on and so forth. So this should be simple. Let's line up those decimal places and see what we get. We have 2 and 31 hundredths, and then we're going to add that to 41 hundredths. And now, once you add that together, we end up with 2 and 72 hundredths. But since we're talking money and dollars and cents, what this really comes down to is $2.72. So to answer their question, the price per gallon is now $2.72. So I hope you learned something today, including that there are two main applications of addition. Those two main applications are 1, find the total, and 2, find the result of an increase. You should be able to answer any question that has to do with addition now. Go for it. I want you guys to give it your best today. And remember, if you need help, just ask any of our team members from Math Corps. We're your family now, and we are here to help and support you. Take care and have a wonderful day.